Good afternoon, everybody. Uneducated Economist here. So, thank you for joining in on today's live stream. Be sure and hit that like button when you join the live stream. By hitting that like button, the YouTube algorithm will grab the video, spread it around for more people to join in, and we can share what it is that is truly happening within this economy with other people who have the interest, who have the mindset that they want to understand what it is that's going on so they can make the best decisions for themselves. This is the channel in which that we are doing that on. In today's video, we're going to talk about how the alleviation of the threat of tariffs is actually going to tighten financial conditions. Now, I know this is probably counterintuitive to what it is that most people feel about the tariffs and how it is that it's impacting the economy, but a lot of people are so focused in on the credible threat of tariffs that is going to bring manufacturing jobs back or bring back some kind of return to renaissance when it has the United States is like a manufacturing powerhouse kind of thing. I don't know what it is that most people feel the tariff is going to do, but in order for something like that to happen, it would literally take years upon years, maybe even decades, in order for that to have any kind of real impact on the economy. But the perception, the way people feel, what it is that they are thinking and how it is that they behave, this is almost instantaneous when it comes to the information that is being delivered to them. So when we think about the idea of tariffs and what it is that's going to do to the economy, many people are looking at tariffs as an inflationary pressure, that it's going to break supply chains, that you're going to have the cost push inflation coming from the added costs that are going to be associated with the tariffs that are put on all the foreign production that's coming to the United States. This added inflation expectation does something that is very esoteric to most people out there. And that is, it raises something called the neutral interest rate. We have been discussing this on this channel for quite some time, and very much we are talking about it again today, like we have been for the last few days, because what has been announced over the last 24 hours is something that has a profound impact on the people's psychology, on what it is that they feel is going to happen with inflation, and the results to the neutral interest rate can be very impactful to an individual's life. In fact, to the whole financial market out there. Now, when we think about elevated inflation expectation raising the neutral interest rate while the Federal Reserve is sitting still, elevated inflation expectation will actually cause the financial markets to ease or be less restricted. I think that's probably a better way of saying it. However, with all things being equal, if you have the removal of inflation expectation, you will lower the neutral interest rate. If the Federal Reserve continues to stand still and going into the future, we have this blocked tariff that is not going to create an inflation expectation, and that inflation expectation begins to fall, it will pull the neutral interest rate down. If the Fed continues to stay still, right, big what if the Fed stays still and the neutral interest rate falls, this will tighten financial conditions. It'll make the economy less eased. It'll be harder to operate in. I don't know how you want to understand it, but however you want to look at it, is if the Federal Reserve had raised rates, but they can sit still, put out a lack of inflation expectation into the mainstream media, this will lower the neutral interest rate and make the economy more restricted. This is so important to understand because it's counterintuitive to the way most people feel that the Federal Reserve is conducting themselves. They look at interest rate adjustments alone, and that's it. Never taking into consideration what it is that happens when they adjust those interest rates in relation to the neutral interest rate. Knowing now that they are using their words, forward guidance, signaling, jawboning, or what I like to refer to as credible threats, knowing that that is the main policy tool, it's not a matter of adjusting the Fed funds rate, it's a matter of adjusting the people's perception to raise and lower the neutral interest rate. By raising and lowering the neutral interest rate, you can make the economy more or less restricted. Or even some cases, if you could raise the neutral interest rate high enough, it could actually ease financial conditions. Meanwhile, the Federal Reserve never moving a finger, never lifting a finger, never doing anything, sitting there on their hands, using forward guidance, jawboning, credible threats, right? However you want to describe it. This is the reality of the situation we now face. Most people can't see it. Most people will never see it. In fact, most people think it's a political thing that's happening, not realizing any of this stuff that I have talked about so far. Knowing that if you are looking for financial conditions to ease, you have to understand that if you want financial markets to ease, you have to have an elevated inflation expectation that will raise the neutral interest rate, making the economy less restricted. That's how the Fed is conducting themselves now. And again, all things being equal, if they want to tighten the financial conditions or make them more restricted, then you lower the inflation expectation, lower the neutral interest rate, and again, just remain still. The Federal Reserve just stands still, never adjusting their interest rates, and the markets will tighten on their own. So now that we have a better understanding of what it is that we need to do with our investments, with our business decisions, everything that we are doing, we can look at the conditions of the market in a much different light. Most people are waiting for the Federal Reserve to move. When is the Fed going to move? Like, how many times have you heard when the Fed lowers rates, mortgage rates will come down, or the mortgage rates will come down once the Federal Reserve adjusts rates? But yet, does that happen? Absolutely not. It's because the adjustment of interest rates is not the main policy tool of the Federal Reserve, and it hasn't been for quite some time. In fact, literally since 2008, they gave up on the adjustment of interest rates as a main monetary policy tool and then started using forward guidance. It worked. It still works today. However, 99% of the people don't see it. They don't know. And so they get guided like sheep with the mainstream media's narrative. There are so many things that they have backwards. I mean, even just the simple idea that the Federal Reserve is attempting to get to a 2% inflation rate is inaccurate. The Federal Reserve is trying to get to moderately above 2% for some time to make up for the fact that they failed to achieve the 2% target over the previous 10 years. You can go and research that yourself. There's plenty of documentation out there coming from the Federal Reserve itself that explains that, but yet the mainstream media would have you believe that they are attempting to get to a 2% target. This is the unfortunate situation that we are now in, is that the entire monetary policy is literally a game of psychology. All right. Let's see here. Works for whom? Wayne, see you later. Alligator, see you, Wayne. I'm off to lunch. See you. Oh, I guess that was all-nighter. See you all-nighter. I'm not for sure. Some compound. Okay. Ooh, fuzzy dice. Yeah, all-nighter. Column 3. Hey, family. Hey, Rolando. All-nighter. All right. It's great to see you guys up in here. Simon, can you elaborate on the mechanics that play out when the neutral rate rises and the economy becomes more accommodating? How exactly does it become accommodating? Okay, so we have to really think that it's almost like a ghost in the machine kind of aspect when you think about the neutral interest rate, because you can't focus in on it. You can't see it in real time. There is no way of understanding how the neutral interest rate is positioned in accordance to the federal funds rate in real time. You can look at it over the past, right? And so if you think about monetary policy, if you think about yourself in relation of the Fed funds rate, it's probably not going to make a lot of sense, because you have positioned yourself with your mortgage rates, your car loan, all this other stuff. These things are fixed, right? So when you think about the Federal Reserve lowering interest rates or moving interest rates, you're thinking it in accordance to your fixed position that you are in, right? Now, that's probably accurate for the way that you have positioned your economy. But to look at the broader sense of things, there is a neutral interest rate where the Fed funds rate is neutral. It's neither accommodating nor restricting the economy. Now, this moves on a daily basis. So if you're taking advantage of a particular interest rate today, it's in accordance to where it is in the neutral position. So again, like you personally, from all the debts that you have taken out, the neutral interest rate movement is probably not going to be very impactful to your life unless you plan on doing investments or more borrowing going into the future, right? But what you have already done from the past, it's fixed, right? That isn't going to change much, but it's what's going to happen going into the future, right? So when you think about like the neutral interest rate being whether or not the economy is being restricted or accommodating, right? That neutral interest rate, the position in which that you are now going to start, investing or borrowing going into the future, how close the Fed funds rate is to that neutral position is going to determine on whether or not you are getting the best loan or, being in the best position in order to take advantage of the economy at the time. Like, even if you borrow money, you want to make sure that there's enough business out there to acquire the money to pay back your loan. So easier financial conditions means that people are going to be borrowing more money and spending that money into the economy, giving you the ability to get that money back to pay your loan, right? But if you're borrowing and there's no transactions taking place out there, you're going to have a difficult time trying to acquire the dollars you need to pay back your loan. So easier financial conditions means that there's going to be more people out there borrowing that money to participate in the economy, which is where you want to be. If you're going to borrow money to pay that money back, you need to have a good economy happening. So if the economy is tight on accordance to where the Fed funds rate is in relation to the neutral interest rate, even if the interest rates are good, like in a good sense to, you think that they're good, it may not be a good time to borrow that money as the economy is not going to be active enough for you to acquire the dollars you need to pay that back. So being tight conditions or easier conditions where the Fed funds rate is in relation to the neutral interest rate is very impactful for your future decisions, like whether or not you're going to borrow money or invest money going into the future. Everything that you've already done, that's essentially fixed, and the movement of the neutral interest rate is probably not nearly as impactful to you as far as that goes. Maybe it's impactful in the sense that, the economy will heat up or slow down and whether or not you can pay back those past loans. But as far as future decisions go, there's really neither here nor there on that. If you're not going to invest and you're not going to borrow into the future, you're just looking at easier financial conditions to be able to participate in that active economy to acquire the dollars to pay back your debts. Does that kind of make sense? Sometimes maybe I should think about these ones a little bit longer before I answer. Okay, DOGE is the reason people are suffering. Okay, I think that's more about the meaning that you have given that. Fiscal conservatism and taxes slow the economy. Federal spending and tax cuts speed up the economy. Okay, no, and I agree that, that is probably a good way of looking at how it is that the government is interacting within the economy. But ultimately, it's the financial conditions and whether or not they are restrictive or easing. That's where it comes from. It's not the government spending. That's a symptom of it. Someone's spending is someone's income. Economics 101. All right. Afternoon. Oh, guys, Gitsy. All right. Already baked. Okay. That's in a doom and gloom economy. Does your channel really help thrive? Can you deep deuce how bad we are by the number of people coming into your channel? You said as a barometer. That if you have a particular event happen within the economy that creates a bunch of fear, uncertainty, and doubt, then people are going to go look for answers. And if you have a channel in which that you are talking macroeconomics and you happen to be talking about those particular topics, then yeah, you're probably going to get a lot of attention from that, right? And if you get more attention than what you are normally getting, then it's probably a sign that the economy is, or that the fear, uncertainty, and doubt within the economy is quite prevalent. Now, I can push fear, uncertainty, and doubt through my channel. I can be the fear monger. I can tell you about how it is that the whole thing is about ready to collapse, and how it is that the banking system is trying to keep you in debt slavery and all the other stuff about it, because I'm pretty good at talking that way if I was to truly want to do that. And I would probably make a lot of money here on YouTube talking like that, because, well, I've proven it to myself I can do that. But that's not the goal of this channel. The goal of this channel is to figure out what it is that's truly happening out here. I mean, if you don't agree with me and you're just watching the channel so that you can disagree with everything that I am saying out there, I don't know how that benefits you. Like, you should be searching out things that you do agree with, that's going to benefit your life, that is going to give you the opportunity to make proper decisions for yourself. But if you're looking at this channel saying, nah, you're just wrong about everything that you're talking about, I'm not even sure why you would even want to be here, you know? So considering what it is that's going on in the economy and how it is that I feel that I have done the research, shown many times through the documentation of the Federal Reserve, through many different, discussions on how the Fed funds rate or how the Fed funds rate hitting the lower bound of zero made their monetary policy tool ineffective, and that they had to absolutely change the way it is that they conduct themselves, and they started using their words more than their actions. There's very few people out here on the internet who have built an entire philosophy breaking this thing down in detail, right? So once you understand it, once you see it, it becomes very clear. The whole credible threat of tariffs. I mean, how many times did you hear me on my channel say, what tariffs? What tariffs? Like, the credible threat of tariffs, that's very profound. I want to know exactly what tariffs is it that we are talking about. And now we got a judge who's blocked all of them, like essentially all of it. What tariffs? I've been saying it the whole time. And so to understand that the credible threat of tariffs is starting, it has definitely increased the inflation expectations of the people, and it's raised the neutral interest rate, making the economy less restricted. How many people out there know that? I mean, I mentioned this a couple of times to a few different people at the Rebel Capitalist. They never thought of that. They understood the information that I was talking about. Like, it wasn't like a surprise to them. They're like, oh wow, that's profound information. They already knew the information. They just hadn't combined it into this direction to think about it raising the neutral interest rate, making the economy less restricted. Like, I am literally only one who talks like this. And so, even the idea that I'm trying to be helpful and useful to people with this information, I know it's not going to be nearly as popular if I was to do a video that told you how it was going to destroy your life. If I was to do a video like that, I may have 1,200 people watching right now. But understanding this stuff for the reality that it is, that's not nearly as entertaining. And it's difficult because you actually have to try to figure it out. There's nobody out there who's going to explain it simply so that it's just like, oh, okay, well, that's easy enough. Why didn't they do, because it's not easy. It's not simple. It's very difficult, and it's very deep. No one is suffering because of DOGE. DOGE hasn't really even done anything. I agree. Interesting, the analysis of purpose. Oh man, you're 15 minutes early today. I'm going to have to watch the video twice now. Hey, that's a great idea, Deplorable. All right, I agree with most of what you are saying, but I think the propaganda and the forward guidance is in everything. Well, I mean, you can give it a meaning that it's in everything. I mean, to be honest, I don't look at the mainstream media for information. I look at the mainstream media to either validate or enhance or even contradict the information that I have already discovered, right? Like, how many times have I tried to say that the Federal Reserve is not going for a 2% target, yet I find Time Magazine, USA Today articles talking just that the Federal Reserve is trying to get to a 2% inflation target, and that they don't see anything else. That is inaccurate. They are going for moderately above 2% for some time, allowing inflation to run extra hot, extra long for an extended period of time. This is This is what's happening out there. They are not attempting to get down to a 2% target. They've never in the history of time ever been able to achieve a 2% target. I don't know why anybody would think that they can do it now. All right. I mean, it's just like, it's foolish thinking to say that, oh, the Federal Reserve is trying to get to a 2% target. And it would be like, okay, I would agree with that if you could show me any time in history in which that they were able to achieve that, considering that was the goal for the previous 15 years, is to get to a 2% target. They can't do it. They just simply can't. Even when they try, even when they say they're going to do it, they can't. They don't. You know? So that's not what they're attempting to do. They're going for average inflation rate over time. All right, let's cruise down here to the bottom. SFM, inflating away debt requires reduced stalled debt growth while inflation runs hot. For a period, we are pushing inflation and blowing up debt levels together. We are pouring gas on the fire. DOGE is definitely part of the credible threats. Yeah, I agree. I thought all of your videos was about how your life is going to be destroyed if you don't get it on the other side of it. No, I don't believe that. I said if you want to be on the other side of the wedge, right, then you're going to have to take in a position of property ownership and capitalism. Being on the other side of the wedge doesn't necessarily be a good thing. I mean, it's all depending on the meaning that you've given it. Some people want to live on a hippie commune with no money. Can you believe it? Some people want to live that way. I don't. I'll do it for a weekend. That would be, sounds like fun. Maybe even a week. Hell, I might even do a month, right? But after that, I don't want to do it anymore. I like hot showers. I like hot tubs. I like, eating out. I like, flying on airplanes to go to the conventions and stuff like that. I don't want to live like a hippie. But some people do, right? So they don't need to be on the other side of the wedge. They don't need to be capitalists. They don't need to be property owners or anything else like that. So if you want to be on the other side of the wedge, you got to take into consideration that the only way you're going to do it is property ownership and capitalists and being a capitalist. That's it. Other than that, you're going to suffer on the bottom side of the wedge, working extra hard, extra long for an extended period of time to try and acquire the things of what it is that you feel is the American dream, and it's only going to get harder and harder from here. So yeah, I mean, just how you want to look at it. I'm convinced that essentially everything the Fed or the administration says they plan to do is predominantly a credible threat. I'm kind of in agreement with that, Brody. I mean, I just don't pay attention too much. See, I just don't pay attention to too much politics out there because, like we were saying, in a previous video, politics saps your passion. It takes your passion from you. It lights you up, gets you excited, has you move into a power pendulum that you think is actually going to be very important and impactful to the people's lives. You try to rally other people up onto that, and over time arguing and discussing and putting a lot of thought and attention and energy towards this particular movement, only to find that it fades away and that everybody kind of forgets about it and that it's no longer important and it's not being discussed anymore. And you think to yourself, man, what could I have been doing with my time other than thinking about this stuff that never really actually came to fruition? Right? That's the politics zapping your passion from you. It's harvesting it. Right? You could have been using that to benefit your life, to benefit your friends and families and neighbors, to provide good usefulness to this world, but instead you put it towards an energy source, you took your energy and put it towards something that never really did anything except for zap it from you. I mean, they used it to better, they made advertisement money, they got their political pull from it, they used it, they used your passion, your energy for their purpose, but what did you get out of it? For being in line with this particular political thought and trying to get other people involved with it as well, only to find that it never came to anything. They got theirs out of it, they got their money, they got their position, but what did you get from it? A bunch of anxiety, depression, right? Maybe even arguments with friends and family. What good was it? All right, but it's a great thing to actually see the real truth. Absolutely, Deja. Great call on the passion comments because they all lie. So you can't back a position up represented by a person when they later disappoint. How would you treat such behavior from friends? I agree. You know, this is why you have to own your own economy. That's why you're always going to own your own economy, no matter what. Even if you didn't think you did, it's their responsibility, it's their fault, it's their, like, if they didn't do these particular things, we wouldn't be in this debt. Or you have to make decisions based on that information. If you put it out there to say, hey, it's their fault. If it's their fault, then there has to be something that can be done that is no longer their fault, but it's their success, right? You put everything that you have in your life on whether or not they are going to be at fault or they're going to be successful. Think about that. You are living off dangling from their threads. Yeah. Not me. Like, I look at that stuff and I'm like, man, I better make some better decisions for myself based on what they just did. Okay? Politics is part of our democracy, and I believe we all need to participate, but do not get too emotional involved and do not let it run your life. I think you have more political pull by the way that you handle your money far more than the way that you vote. In fact, voting with your money, voting with your dollars, is by far the most profound way of voting. And once you understand that putting your money in the bank or putting your money into gold and silver, on how that is you politically voting, right, then you would understand. Wow, plus they never have consequences if they are in gerrymandering districts, yeah. Oh yes, power of the purse. I was taught that in grade school. I think grade 5. Yeah. Money is power. I don't like the word democracy. Yeah, democracy is another way of saying mob rules. How many people in the audience has used your information to actually make money from it? Raise your hands, folks. Deplorable. That would be kind of against what it is that I am trying to do here on this channel, which is to use the information to make money. Like, if that's the meaning that you have given it, that's totally cool, but that's not the meaning that I am trying to push out there for the usefulness of this information. Now, most people look at it to say, hey man, I need money in my life and I want to use the information to get money. And I totally get that. Like, there was a time in my life I felt that very same way, but I don't do that anymore. I don't look at me needing to get money. I don't look at that. I don't think about the need to get money. I know that I have to pursue something that is going to give me the ability to have a cash flow that comes in, because everything that I want in my life is going to demand cash. However, I don't need to pursue money in order to acquire these things. And this is where it's really different for a lot of people out there when they start to understand how everything is an energy flow, right? And money is just an energy, just like anything else. Like, I look at everything in the world as an abundance. Everything is an abundance. Now, what it is that I need in my life is going to come to me when it is that I need it. I didn't think about making a bunch of money so that I can have all kinds of things in my life, so that I can have, the ability to travel, or have, the ability to buy whatever I want. The only thing I was thinking when I was trying to pursue money, especially here on YouTube, the only thing I had in my mind, I want to be able to pay my bills on time. That was it. That was the extent of it. When I went to monetize the channel, my whole goal was $100. That was the entire goal of making money on YouTube, was $100, because that was the threshold for YouTube, or for the Google AdSense to send you a check. $100. That was my entire goal. Right? Pay my bills on time. That was my picture. My goal, $100. Once I made the $100 on YouTube, I thought, okay, let's do that again. That was it. That was the entirety of all my goals in the pursuit of it. Think about where it is that it's taken me. I mean, it's completely like changed my entire life, and never once did I really think, man, I got to pursue the money. And when I did do that, usually the money was very difficult and it started becoming less available. So I don't think about how it is that I pursue the money. I just think about what it is that I am pursuing in life, trying to put out the best content that I can, to be true to myself, to be true to what it is that I'm finding out there, and deliver that information knowing that it's going to be useful and helpful to the world, and for that I am going to get a return of the ability to pay my bills on time. And if it happens to come in the form of money, so be it. Okay? But that's how I look at it. If you look at this information and says, I need to use this to pursue money, I guarantee you the money will start to run from you. Okay? Because you're putting a wanting, needing energy on it. It needs me. I need this information to be able to provide me with money, right? And so therefore you put this added importance on it. You put, excess potential in the alternative space of such nature, and then you're going to have a slamming back of a balancing act that was probably going to have a counter reaction to what it is that you were pursuing, meaning that you'll probably lose money with your trade based on the idea that this information needs to make me money. Instead, just take the information, internalize it, understand what it is, and go and pursue your life. And I guarantee you, you will be making decisions appropriate for you just based on the idea that you have internalized the information. Don't try to use it. Just live it. It's already being used. Don't purposefully say, hey, I need this to make me money. If that's the case, then you're probably going to fail. But if you internalize the information and say, hey, man, what do I need to do out there in order to study what it is that I got going on in my life to pursue the things I need, this information will come up and be useful to you when it's needed. Okay? Like, I don't do stock trades. I don't sit there and look at the news and say, okay, I'm going to use this to go and pursue a stock trade. I don't do that. So somebody else is saying, how do I do that? I don't know. I don't do that. Right? I do dollar cost average into stocks. You guys know that. I dollar cost average into Bitcoin, gold, silver, stocks, right? $50 a week, $50 a month, depending on what it is that I have going on at the time. That's how I do my investments. So for somebody else to like say, hey, I want to take this information and run with it and use it to make money with, that's on you. That's on you to figure it out. That's not what I do, 401k is a waste of funds. Yeah, I don't think so. I mean, I got, employer matching contributions going into it, so it's like free money to me. I mean, if you want to consider it a waste, I get it. I agree, Brody. I think it's a pretty good deal, especially with the employer contribution, I think the guy is looking for stock picks. Of course he is. Okay? I mean, like I said, I invested into Coinbase for a while now. That's like my stock pick. And it wasn't even one that I had. It wasn't the one that I thought, man, this is it, man. This is where you got to put all your money. I just started buying into it, and it just did it so well. Like Coinbase, the cryptocurrency bank, Coinbase and Bitcoin, by far just annihilated, did so much better than any other position that I had possibly taken, except for maybe the real estate, the house, right? But out of all the rest of them, it made everything else look like it was standing still. All right, found this channel around pandemic and never left. My bad. Yeah, Deja, I'm so glad you're here. You're a great addition to the channel. So it'll come to me through osmosis. Well, yeah, actually it will. I mean, I know it's hard to believe, and if you don't believe that, then it probably will be presented. It will probably have presented itself to you, and you didn't see it because you don't believe it. So yeah, you got to believe that will be the case. That it will show up at the right time for you. Very much like, I mean, you think about it. This channel blew up after I had met George Gammon, and he invited me to go to the Rebel Capitalist and speak. That all came because of a shout out that I had done on a video. The reason why I had done that shout out was because somebody in a previous video of mine had commented, you should check out George Gammon. That's it. Previous video, a short little comment from somebody, I don't even know who it was, right? Commented, check out George Gammon. I go and check out his video, thought it was great, gave him a shout out, changed my life forever, right? That's the type of thing that happens. That's the type of such a small little insignificant thing, or seemingly insignificant thing, can have such a profound impact on your life, right? Is it going to come through osmosis? No, it's going to come because the universe has decided your moment is now. And if you deny it at the time, well, you're probably going to miss it. You have to understand that everything is going to work out the way that it's supposed to, on the condition of what it is that you are thinking and feeling. You have a direct reflection of your life by the things that you are thinking and feeling. Straight up, right? If you think, man, the world is deteriorated, it's a horrible place, it's, there's no hope, it's all doom and gloom from here on out, you might want to consider what it is that you are thinking and feeling on a daily basis. Are you studying like conspiratorial stuff? I know when my condition of my life was the most deteriorated, when I was drunk, broke, had no hope, no ambition, no chances of anything, I was at the peak of my studying of conspiracy theories. Yeah, completely deteriorated my life. I gave it up. I said, I'm not going to study this stuff anymore. I put it all away for years and years, right? I didn't look at any news. I didn't watch TV at all, nothing. Turned it all off. I was done, right? So when I came back to studying and getting a cell phone and participating in the economy in a way that was beyond just showing up for my paycheck and that was it, right? Not thinking about investments or anything like that. When I changed, came back and said, just follow the money. Forget about the conspiratorial stuff. When I gave up on all that stuff out there and just started pursuing the understanding of monetary policy and economics, my life completely changed. All of a sudden, I was making way better decisions for myself. Hey, I'm not a rich guy. I have no idea on how it is that these guys make millions of dollars a year and are able to just seemingly do it without it seems like they do it with almost without effort. I don't know how it is that they do that, man. That's awesome. All I know is that I live in one of the nicest areas in the entire country. Okay? Buying a house in one of the nicest areas, expensive areas in the country. Okay? I'm buying a house. I pay my bills on time. I have an insane amount of freedom. You know how much freedom I have? I could take the day off of work, right? I could take the week off of work. I could take a week off of work from doing anything at all. Go to the beach, sit on the beach every single day, not talk to anybody, not look at a cell phone, not do anything at all, and my life would change very little. That would have very little impact on my life to take a complete week off of work and not do anything at all and just chill out and do it right now. I don't have to plan for it. I don't have to do anything. I could do that right now. That's the type of freedom that I have developed with my life. That is more valuable to me than just about anything. To be able to spend as much time as I can with my family is more valuable to me than any money that is available out there. $1 million a year? Yeah, what are you going to do? Spend 16 hours a day flying all over the country trying to figure out how it is that you're going to maintain $1 million a year? I mean, there's some people out there who might get it pretty easy, but most people probably have to work pretty damn hard for it. Tell me, is that lack of time with your family worth it? Would you pay $1 million a year to have as much time as you possibly can with your family, knowing that your kids are going to grow up and one day that ain't going to happen anymore? You're not going to be able to get that time back. Man. See, people need to get the priorities straight when it comes to what it is that they truly want in their life. This is what I wanted. Just this. I wanted easy life. I want to be able to not stress about my bills. I want to be able to spend time with my family. I want to be able to share my ideas with people on stage or through this, platform. I'm getting everything that I could ever. Why would I try to screw that up? People say, man, you should want more. What more could I possibly want? I'm getting everything I wanted. Right? Could it be nicer and fancier and more luxurious and all that other stuff? Sure, it can have all that kind of, superficial stuff to it. But what's the bottom line? I got freedom. I got time. I don't have stress. No stress. That's nice. Just that alone, to not be stressed about whether or not you can make your payments, it's huge. What time is it? All right, I'm getting closer here, guys, to having to call her quits. All right, once your kids move out, they will not spend as much time with you, so the time now is very important. Absolutely it is. I won't get it back. Like, I already feel the loss of time. Freddie's 10 years old. He has a birthday here in a couple of days. I can already feel it. It's like, it's only a matter of time and it's all going to be over. And like, it's, that was that. That would, like, how fast did that happen? I want to look back and say, man, I worked so hard that I didn't have time for him. Like, that's not the story I want to tell. All right, would you buy a home under $300,000 that is worth $500,000 in a high interest rate? Jane, I think you really need to take that in consideration to the location of where interest rates are high. If you're thinking about them comparatively to history, I think that's going to be a difficult thing to answer. But if you look at it comparatively to the neutral interest rate on where the Fed funds rate is, you'd have to think, are interest rates accommodating or restricted, or how restricted are they right now? So I know it's difficult because we want a systematic fix. It's going to be this. Is this high? Is this low? But it's comparatively. Right? Just do not distribute any assets to the kids before you die, and they will be around you more than their way around. Well, if you don't have the right energy so that your family wants to be around you, or the right energy is not carried, it's not a matter of assets like, hey, you better hang around me or else all this money, this dangling of this money over here, temptation, whatever, spend time with me. That ain't gonna work. Right? It's the right energy that you carry with your family, whether or not you're going to be able to communicate with them and have time with them and spend time with them, and if they want to even spend time with you. Being a father is great, but being a grandfather is better. You're funny. I drive the cheapest vehicles and I live in the most expensive house. Yeah, I live in an expensive house, considering that it's not even that fancy of a house. I just live in an expensive area, so it's an expensive house. And I drive a cheap car. I have to do that in order to live in the expensive house, right? It's all about the experience you have. Like, people say, man, you could live in a cheaper area. You're absolutely right. But is it going to be as clean? Is it going to be as safe? Is it going to be as friendly? Right? I mean, that's what I experience here. I spend a lot of money to live here so that I can have the best experience of my environment. I don't, like, it's funny. Like, I went and visited my sister who lives in Jacksonville. When I was down in Orlando at the Rebel Capitalist, we went up and visited my sister. And, just like any other place in the entire country, you have good neighborhoods and you have bad neighborhoods. And bad neighborhoods, you don't want to walk through them at night, or you don't want to be in that particular neighborhood at, during a particular time. I growing up in Clatsop County in Astoria, I don't know what that's like. There's no bad neighborhoods around here. Like, there's no place that you can go to that's going to be like a bad neighborhood. That doesn't exist in my area. It just simply doesn't exist. There is no bad area, right? And so to think about there being a bad neighborhood that you don't want to be at after a particular time, like, I don't know what that would be like. right? That's the type of experience that I have and that I'm paying for, is so that I can live in an area like that, where we don't have that type of neighborhood anywhere around. And it's expensive, but it's worth it. What time is it? Oh gosh, guys, I gotta go. I'd love to be hanging out longer, but I can't. I absolutely agree there, but also be careful handling your assets to kids too early in their life. Oh yeah. Was just in Astoria and Cannon Beach, beautiful area. Well, thank you, Jay. Yeah, absolutely it is. I'm glad you were up here to check it out, because right now this is the time of year that you get the absolute best weather for the experience that you're gonna get here. You know, it's just like, well, now going into the next couple of months. No, don't go. I know, I got to. I'm sorry. I have a day job, so I got to go back to work. This is my lunch break, and I come out here and share my thoughts and ideas on my lunch break, and then I go back to work. It was a good talk, everybody. I hope this information is really helpful and useful. I think the idea of understanding the neutral interest rate is probably one of the most important things, if not the most important thing, for individuals who are trying to make decisions for themselves based on the understandings that they have about the economy. Knowing the neutral interest rate is the interest rate in which that is neither accommodating nor restricting the economy, and the relation of the neutral interest rate in comparison to where the Fed funds rate is, and how restrictive or accommodating the economy is based on that neutral interest rate, is a very, very, not only esoteric, but like far off concept for most people, but it's really pretty simple once you grasp it, right? And once you do, you'll be miles ahead of everybody else. This is why I keep discussing it and bringing it back up again constantly, is because very few people discuss it. They have other ideas of what is happening out there, but if you truly want to know if the financial conditions are accommodating or restrictive, it's not about where the Fed funds rate is positioned. It's where the Fed funds rate is positioned in accordance to the neutral interest rate. And that neutral interest rate can rise and fall off of expectations. And you can't see it in real time. There's no visual place that you can go to, no chart, no website that's going to show you exactly where the neutral interest rate is. You can use R-star, which is the Federal Reserve's estimate of where the neutral rate is in comparison to the Fed funds rate. So if you see R-star chart falling, that is the gap shrinking. That is the economy becoming less restricted, right? Or depending on what side the neutral interest rate is on. Okay. You guys are awesome. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for all the chats. Thank you so much for hitting that like button. Again, hitting that like button helps the YouTube algorithm pick up this video, spread it around for more people to see. When more people join in, it makes for a better conversation and helps to support the uneducated economist. All right, uneducated economist, you guys let me know.